Roll call to establish quorum.
Done.
Excellent. Here.
We have a quorum.
We have quorum.
And I've taken I've taken down everybody who's here.
Perfect, thank you. In keeping with the other boards and per recommendation of Tracy, our agendas now have a public comment section at the beginning. It was in the agenda, and we can, it's very simple. It states exactly the same thing as the Board of Selectmen also states, that our meetings are for us to conduct business in a public setting, which we have to do, yet they are not all public hearings. Public hearings are when there can be a back and forth with the public. We do ask for solicitations. People can voice their opinions. They can say, they can address. It's, they can address for up to 3 minutes. This section is limited to 15 minutes unless we vote to let it go on longer. Next item on the agenda is the town administrator's report. I talked to Tracy last week. Everything has been submitted to the state, but there's nothing back and there's no financial reports to review this time. She asked to be excused and not come tonight, which is fine, given the number of things that are going on in a variety of ways. Next item up for us is committee reports. And since we're in a bit of a lull between the capital planning projects have not been submitted, Tracy
Right.
was under the impression that there was no updates from capital planning, is that correct?
There's no update from capital planning, and we haven't gotten any requests. They're due by the 1st of November.
Perfect.
So they should be in this month.
And master plan, I'm assuming we have not had any,
No master plan.
no master plan either. Okay.
There's no request in the CPC yet, at all?
None,
Really?
yeah. But
You're
usually,
November 1st,
They're due November 1st.
yeah,
Yeah.
November 1st, we'll get them in November. We'll comment on, they'll, hopefully, we'll get them so we can have a meeting in November and
Come in early than that,
get
it
it
didn't come in the last 30 days.
in December.
What? You pulled some sort of a trick and told them the deadline was a different time or something?
Although, I have to say, some of the requests for capital funding have come in late and have been accepted.
But it's been in the recent past, not in
Yeah.
not in the long haul past.
No, Tracy asked to pass on too, that there is no special town meeting
Right,
for
I
fall
assumed that.
because,
Oh.
and that is due in large part to the financial diligence and the fact that the department heads are keeping track of everything that's coming in, so we don't have these swings that we need to adjust with a special town meeting. That's been a lot of the times. If we have anything that's going to be on the ballot or something, since we're not in election year for our town, and since we have no adjustments to be made from the original budget, we're in good shape. So
Excellent.
there's no STM this fall.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm not sure I heard you. The financial information has been submitted to the state for purposes of free cash
Yes.
determination? Okay.
Yep, for certifying the free cash, it's not been certified yet. Expect to hear that in November.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Mhm.
Well, if it's in this early, they tend to be ahead of the game, and they usually act on it.
So in terms of the committee report, this I think is pretty much the meat of our meeting tonight, is a report from the DCC, the District Communications Committee. So as I told everyone in September, in late August we had a meeting where we received the comprehensive facilities assessment and had a presentation. Since then, a calculation error was found in the projections, so we have been issued a new report. They should be available online. I'll get a link to everybody at the end of this meeting. We were given this, the last meeting was last Thursday night. The net of it is that the big number at the bottom it compounded for inflation for all scopes of this project, was incorrectly calculated in the old one at 58.3 million. The new number is 61.5 million. There was a carryover of something that didn't carry over. So, so we have this. There was a long discussion at the DCC. There were representatives of Salisbury, Newbury, and Rowley. Alicia and I were there together. And so what this is saying, and just to be clear about what this facilities assessment is, was this was done at the agreement of all three towns and the school committee more than 2 years ago. It's a study of the envelope of the building to see what it would take to repair that building up to what it should be done. Things are listed out in terms of scopes 1 through 4. Scopes 1 and 2 are your immediate and necessary things to be addressed within 2 years. That number in very round figures is about $31 million in scope 1 and 2. And that is items that include the roof, all of the things that go up on the roof that are part of that. And this is very much just to fix without any idea of improving. It's just to fix and get to today. That is a huge number. All of these are huge numbers. So this is not a request from Triton. It's not anything at a budget time. It's very much a starting point for a discussion about what path our towns and our district are going to take. So to that end, one option would be to have the towns take this and say, okay, we're going to kind of chip away at this and put this and carry the burden amongst our three towns. There is a state program that is referred to, it is the MSBA, which is a state program in which there is some cost sharing between district or towns and the state government. For that, there is an application process. You must apply and be accepted and commit to it, in which case it's right now running. Pine Grove was able to use it. I think they got reimbursed at 51%. Don't quote me. There will be a time for asking some questions about this going forward. But basically, there's a application or intention process. If you're accepted, then you have to kind of move forward with it. So that's a path, is to move down with is to figure out a way to do cost sharing with the state. And within that, there's two different paths. There's one path that would be, we kind of put it in for a full assessment, and we go through with an overall look at our entire facilities for that high school and middle school campus, an assessment of feasibility, and this is only if we get accepted. A feasibility study, in round numbers, we think about $1.5 million. Again, very round numbers, and that would be divided up according to the regional agreement as it stands today, so percentage-wise.
1.5 for the assessment?
For the assessment, approximately. It's just, and again, these are all kind of very round numbers at this point in time. The option number 2 within the cost sharing is to the big project, or one of the big things that's in that scope 1 and 2 is the roof. The roof is in bad shape. And there is like what they call a rapid repair. There's so many places here, and this is where there's a lot going on here, and why this is a first conversation. There's like a rapid repair path that would be dealing where we would cost share the roof repairs. However, that only covers the roof. It doesn't cover all of the air handling, all of that stuff. That cost would be borne by the towns. Again, and if that path is followed, it's pretty much a commitment that that's now going to continue to be, it's kind of a sunk cost. Like if we are investing a $15 million project to fix the roof, why would you 2 years later then go back and
The whole building.
demo the whole building? Exactly. So those are a few things that are up for discussion. As I know that I just gave a very quick overview from that, Alicia and I have been in contact with Brian and Tracy, and we have this room secured for November 9th, and we have Brian and Kyle Warner from Triton coming, and it will be, we'd like to propose a joint meeting of the Select Board and the Finance Committee to hear about these options. Brian and Kyle are working on a one-pager so everybody can follow through and ask questions. We know this is a big decision. The reason that this is being moved up is that we have to submit, if we want to take action and to get into the, letter of intent stage, that has to be done by January. So we need to start working on it in November. So they asked us to make a decision of if we could commit to making a decision by around Thanksgiving. Alicia and I were not.
What forces that deadline? Is it something to do with
It's
the
the state,
MSBC?
yeah, the
MSBC
MSBC, yes.
You lose it, you lose a year.
We lose a year.
You
Okay.
lose a year.
And can MSBC compensatory funds be in any way bundled with whatever discombobulated version of COVID money? Or is there some sort of non-bundling rule?
I don't know about that. If there is, there's a thought that there might be, due to the COVID funding, that more money might be funneled to that program. But it would again be, like, it would funnel through there, so it wouldn't be, I don't know if there's anything within the money that the district received that could go to that, or anything that the town received that could go towards that,
But you would think some of the HVAC or whatever else.
I was
might
gonna
roll
say,
into
you're
that
handling the
funding.
equipment.
maybe, yeah, there's a
Might.
And that
chance.
also holds a deadline, that also.
Right, that
so
also
your-
would-
So your feet are held to the fire, if there's two sources of funding under which your feet are held to the fire, you might as well attempt to hit them both. If
Right.
it's,
If it's even a,
but there might be a rule against bundling them or use one or the other or whatever.
Yeah.
They're from two different sources, so.
yeah, so that's definitely a great question for us to think through and come prepared, even if we want to just kind of come prepared give Brian and Kyle.
Would be good to throw that out to them already before they come. So they
If
can-
there's, yeah, and I know that they're gonna be, I know this came up last night at Rowley's select board meeting, and there's already, the Rowley Talks Facebook page is already bringing people out, but I wanna be very clear that there has been no decision, and this is not a formal request for a budget item. It's not anything that is going to impact people's taxes or budget for.
At some point, this would come down to a vote, I would assume, with the towns. This is proposals that might be out there, options that might be out there, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the towns accepting or not accepting the package.
Yeah, and there's a lot of points in this where even if we submit a letter of intent, we could not be chosen, and we then have to do this and do it without any sort of cost sharing. We could do it, and then in order to fund the feasibility study, we may have to we would have to, depending on how we decide to pay for it, we might need an override, we might need to vote money out at town meeting out of free cash. So there will be many places, and all three towns have to be in agreement. This isn't that makes it tough. So there's a lot of places here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places here, so this is meant to be an opening conversation, addressing the elephant in the room, which we've heard it brought out for 10 years that I've been around on this board and around, is that you're gonna have to deal with the Triton campus at some point. Well, now we know we have a starting point of what that looks like. It's no longer just it's looming out there somewhere. So that is what's going on at the district communications meeting. The good news is that the schools are open, kids are attending, the protocols are going well, the mask mandate is in effect through November 1st. They're collecting proof of vaccinations in hopes of hitting the 80%, which may trigger a reduction in masks and among those who are vaccinated within the schools, but not there yet. That's under the state. It's November 1st is by the state. Masks inside of all school buildings for every individual.
What's the age of the equipment on Triton?
Original building was built between 69 and 71. The improvements were made around 2000. And at that time, there was an addition and some facilities improvements.
Mostly middle school.
Yeah.
So
Just have to wait and see.
it's a, it's not
So
something
50
within.
years.
Yeah, and that's what they would be looking, if we were thinking of a feasibility study for that, they would look to build a building that they would expect to last 50 years.
A lot of the systems there have reached their so-called
And-
useful life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, when you think about when it was built.
Oh, yeah.
Would you, if you had a
25
50
years
If
is
you had a
pretty-
50-year-old roof, wouldn't you be replacing it on your home?
They replaced some of it at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
There was a
been
piece
very
replaced
close.
because it was really bad.
Yeah.
It was very bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
but now it
I
needs
can't remember.
stem to stern.
But I think if you, I think I read recently in the paper, they just built a new high school for 352 million somewhere. So
Oh, my God.
Oh, yes.
that's,
Well,
so,
we'll take a roof, I think we should take a roof fixing.
I forget now
Yeah,
where it was. It was in Massachusetts.
That's a much better price.
Well, the price is one thing, but if we're looking at a 50-year building,
Yeah,
and then we've got to say, you know, if we're going to come back and look at that building in 2 or 3 or 4, even 5 years, doing the roof,
yeah.
maybe the wrong way to go.
Yeah,
It's short-term, it might be a short-term, less
Fix.
expensive, but in the long-term, end up costing significantly more.
yeah.
So,
We have a long, proud history of building short-term, less expensive.
yes, so we know that this is, there's competing priorities in every one of the towns. But it is a very, I think one of the things that's important to remember is that Triton isn't another entity. Triton is us, it is all 3 of our towns. We committed to it.
Yeah,
It's our responsibility. The children that attend those schools are our responsibility to provide that education and a safe environment for that, so. It's definitely been a weighty subject. I came home on Thursday night, we were there for, the recording is up. One of the reasons, so we're gonna do the meeting here, we wanna make sure it's here and in a place that can be streamed and make sure the recording was good. So we didn't wanna be at the library, we wanna make sure we're somewhere where the microphones can pick it up, so if people cannot attend,
I
they
think
can.
this is better.
This is, yeah, so it was either gonna be here or at Triton, depending on who we could get for AV, but I think we're here. We're here for, it looks like we're confirmed,
Yeah, that's fine.
so it'll be a joint meeting. And if anyone on our board has questions ahead of time, feel free to shoot them to me and or Brian. And we're kind of working on kind of a presentation to more succinctly and in writing put together what I kind of loosely explained with some more facts and.
There's a possibility that there is a formula that determines how much the state provides. It could potentially be a little higher, but
Yeah, depending, yeah,
it's
they've
gonna
had
roll
some.
around
We gotta
50,
wait.
but it could get as high as 60, I think. I think that one project I did was 58, and that was at Hamilton Wenham. And they're not poor.
That's
But
really,
anyway, it's just, I mean, and Brian, I'm sure Brian has gotten, I'm sure he's communicated, so.
And there's some recent history from the Pine Grove project
Yeah,
as well.
well, we just have to wait and see.
yeah. So,
Okay.
Alrighty.
anything else? Let's see. I had another question.
No, I've already asked your question.
I know. No, I'll have to get Casey with this. Tracy,
Yeah, see,
it's the, personnel, you know, I know Larry used to always talk about, you know, as soon as we hire somebody, we got them, we got their retirement, we got all of that. And that number keeps escalating. You know, the liability gets growing and growing, so I don't know. I haven't seen the numbers, but I think we've added a fair number of people over the last 5 years.
Although our liability has gone down so year over year.
The actuarial report
Yes,
is,
the actuarial.
it's gone down,
Yep, it has.
so people may be dying earlier.
Yeah,
Seriously.
by what means has it gone down?
What they do is they, and I wish I could be exact about it, Frank, but what they do is look at your population and what you owe and figure out what that is going to be and what your investments are, what the investments are in the fund that is paying into that. And they came up with a figure that had been reduced year over year, even though we had put in,
50,000 more.
was it 50,000?
Minuscule
50 to
amount
100.
compared
So
to
we
what
went,
it
yeah,
is.
so we
It's a good faith
escalated our
effort.
payments in.
25,000 on about 10 million.
Yeah.
Not
That's
really.
fair, that's good.
But I think there was more going to be put into it this past budget, but then COVID kicked in and
Yeah.
we put the brakes on everything. But
I think
there
we're
was the
shooting for
intention.
200 or 250, weren't we?
We're
last
going to go
time?
higher, I think we're at 100.
Oh,
I think we're
okay.
doing 50, I think we're up to 100.
Okay.
Yeah, we did go up to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all the time about every one of these towns.
It's all pay as you go right now. It's pay as you go.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just what it is. And Triton, and I mean, Jim had mentioned it at our last meeting, but I knew that was, Triton's huge,
Mhm.
you know, so.
So,
But unless the towns go bankrupt, it's out
Don't
there.
say that.
Towns have gone bankrupt.
Towns
Oh, yeah,
have-
no, I know.
um,
So,
and the only other thing is that we only got one question from the public during the last month, and it was regarding, well, it was 3 questions
From Steve?
from Steve.
Yep.
Tracy answered them. One was about the tax rates and the police station, and whether or not that had been going into tax bills. The police station debt service payments have been reflected in the annual tax bills since fiscal year 2020. So we're actually 2 years in, and they include principal and interest right now.
they started principal 2
They
years
started,
ago?
they started principal
Okay.
in 2020 and
Yeah.
21,
That's
it
right,
started
that's right.
principal.
That's when they drew the.
Yeah, interest and then, so that's all going. And then there was a request for an update on the estimated cost for council on aging and town hall. And as Tracy succinctly put it, the select board will need to determine a course of action for the council on aging and town hall before the finance committee would deliberate on proposals. So we do not have any information in front of us. The other one was around this project, and we discussed that, so.
But you're right, Frank, that's a looming issue.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All of these things, it's a minefield.
Well,
It's gonna be interesting. Come home to roost.
Yes. Well, the state hasn't, nobody's forced it, you know,
No.
so.
No.
I mean, there are towns that haven't done a damn thing about it, you know. So. It affects your bond rating somewhat, I think, but not much.
it does.
You know, it's a factor, and as long as you're showing some effort too, I think that helps. Or at least you recognize it's there.
Right, you're acknowledging its existence. Yeah.
You're acknowledging, yes,
Yeah.
folks, we know.
We put money in it, we quote the figure in every annual town meeting.
Yeah, yeah, so. Anyway,
And that's our agenda for this evening. So right now, our next meeting would be, if we have financials to report, would be November 2nd. If we did that, but I don't think we need to even put that on. We're gonna do the joint meeting on the 9th. is gonna be,
I think you said the 4th before, did you mean the 4th or the 9th?
it's the 9th.
It's the 9th.
It's the 9th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's the 9th. It's the second Tuesday in
Yeah,
November.
second
Yeah.
Tuesday.
And
We were the
this
first Tuesday
Yeah.
on the second.
confirmed,
I might have dropped it.
So 7 days is the ninth.
yeah, and we confirmed this location,
Joint meeting.
yeah. Assuming we were in person unless there's any rules, changes to COVID rules.
Were you and Alicia the only ones at that meeting?
From
From Newbury?
Newbury, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neil was there, Wilma. Trying to remember who else was there. Joe from Rowley. Narissa from Raleigh. Linda Wachowski is the board chair, the school committee chair. Kyle and Brian
Yeah.
from Triton. Although nobody in that room really wanted to make a decision that night when they were like, so do you think? And we're like, whoa. Time out, so.
So they just, I didn't look at the study, but they only did the envelope?
They did there's stuff on the bathrooms and things like that, but it's really the major, most of the stuff on this is like, it's replacing the concrete with concrete,
okay.
which it's and there's so much concrete
Yeah.
around
Oh,
this
yeah.
building. Nobody uses this much concrete anymore, I guess, there's all sorts of, the roof is really the bad part. And then there's the other things that fall into scope, like 3 and 4, which are like after 5 years, we could probably address this, but
Has the schedule created, what, 5 or 6 years ago for the round school been kept up with?
Yes.
absolutely.
Yep.
Mhm.
It is possible.
That roof work is done, isn't it? I
Mhm.
thought that's-
On the round school,
I
yes.
do the-
Yeah, we did that last year or the year before. I forget.
Yeah, it's
Well,
been-
we've done a section every
Two
year.
pieces,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we are
Last year
still
was the
doing
last
it.
piece.
Pardon?
Last year was the last piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's an example of where we did it without applying or cost sharing or anything. We did it through the diligence of knowing when it was coming, budgeting for it,
Yeah.
and working within our means, so.
That number seems minuscule by comparison today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It seemed large at the time, it seems like
I
a
know.
joke, now it's pocket change now.
And we still own that building.
Yes.
Yes, we own that. Raleigh owns Pine Grove. Triton owns Salisbury Elementary.
That's still a sticky wicket.
There are two committees, one on the regional, the assessment formula, one group there, and one on landlord tenant. I'm on the formula one. They're closely tied together, but I think this has taken over a bit of steam on that. Also, October 1 is the deadline. They report, that's the enrollment number. So that number is submitted by the district on October 1, and then the people at the state figure it out and figure out who's choiced and who's gone here. And that enrollment will be certified, and that's then used for the formula for FY23.
Yeah.
So we don't know what that number is. We don't know where we fall out, but.
They won't get it back till around January, I
Mhm.
think. So,
And that's a foundation budget number.
yeah. So,
Is there any indication those that bailed out last year are back this year?
Don't know. I tried to
From
get a
Raleigh, I
sense.
think there is.
I think there's some from Raleigh, so.
I didn't hear the
Raleigh,
question.
Raleigh was a big,
Didn't either.
was there, Tom had asked if there was any indication that any number of people who had bailed out last
Oh.
year had returned.
No.
It's my understanding that a number of the Raleigh people have.
Mhm. And, yeah,
But I'll be interested to see how Newbury's year-over-year enrollment still, if it continues to increase. My guess is yes.
decrease, yes. I'm guessing that as well. That'd be
Yeah.
my money would be bet on. I think that Brian said that they had a number of people who were, like, the numbers were changing daily because they had some families that said they intended to homeschool, and then as soon as the district told them the rules of this is how you need to homeschool, then they said, okay, they're gonna be coming to school, so. There's been some of those as well. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of things in flux right now. So it'll be an interesting year to see how things fall out.
Mhm.
Okay.
If there's nothing more on the agenda,
I move
Second?
adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
Aye.